Solving proportions and percent proportions. The student will estimate and find solutions to application problems involving percents and other proportional relationships, such as similarity and rates. Example 1. Ms. Richardson assigns a 237-page book to read. You read the first 15 pages in 25 minutes. Based on this rate, how long will it take you to read the entire book? We know that we're trying to read a 237-page book. And we're trying to find out how long will it take. We know that we read 15 pages in 25 minutes. So our information is presented to us in pages and minutes. So if we read 15 pages in 25 minutes, how long, how many minutes will it take to read a 237-page book? Note, pages are on top and minutes are on bottom in each of the ratios. Now before we go about writing an equation here, cross multiplying, we see that we have 15 over 25, which I know can be simplified. 15 is divisible by 5, and so is 25. So I'll have 3 over 5 equals 237 over x. All I've done is simplify one of the ratios, 15 over 25. And now I'm ready to cross multiply. So I have 3 times x is equal to 5 times 237. So I'll take 237 times 5. And I get 3 times x is equal to 1,185. Now the last step, I will divide 1,185 by 3. 3 doesn't go into 1, it goes into 11. 3 times which is 9, subtract and get 2, bring down an 8. Goes in 9 times which is 27, subtract and get 1. Bring down the 5, it goes in 5 times. So, how long will it take? It will take us 395 minutes in order to read the entire book. The Math CBA has 15 questions, which you complete in 50 minutes. If you work the 63 questions on the STAR test at the same pace, how many hours will it take you to complete the STAR test? So we have information that is given to us in minutes, but we are asked for an answer in hours. So note, we will have to do some conversion. The CBA has 15 questions and the STAR test has 63 questions. So we have two categories here, questions and time. Our time is given to us in different units. So we have questions, and the time that's given to us is given to us in minutes. So we're going to have to convert that into hours before we get our final answer. So, in order to prevent us from forgetting this, we'll make two answer boxes, one for minutes and one for hours, so we don't forget to convert at the end. So, we have 15 questions that are completed in 50 minutes. And then we have 63 questions, and when we solve that, it will give us minutes. we'll need to then convert into hours. So notice on top I have questions. Okay. On bottom I have minutes. So X will give me minutes. Then I'll need to convert that into hours. 15 over 50 can be simplified. 15 and 50 are both divisible by 5. 15 divided by 5 will give me 3. And 50 divided by 5 will give me 10. That will give me smaller numbers to work with. So I now have 3 times X will equal 63 times 10. And 63 times 10 will give me 630. So I'm ready to divide. 630 divided by 3. 3 goes into 6 2 times. Bring down the 3, it goes in 1 time. Bring down the 0, it goes in 0 times. So I have 210 minutes. But I'm asked again for hours. And so I'll need to convert the minutes into hours. How many minutes are there in 1 hour? 60. So I'll take my 210 minutes and I'll divide it into groups of 60 to find out how many hours. 60 goes into 2 0 times, into 21 0 times, into 210 how many times? I can estimate 6 goes into 21 how many times? 3, which is 180. And when I subtract, I have 30 left over. So 3 with a remainder of 30. So that's 3 hours and 30 minutes. And now I have it converted into hours. Or if you wanted to continue on, you would get 3.5 for hours. So 3 hours and 30 minutes or 3.5. Either one would be acceptable. A standard bag of Reese's Pieces has 15 yellow candies out of a total of 60. If the jumbo-sized bag has 100 pieces of candy, how many candies can you expect to be orange or brown? Reese's Pieces come in only 3 colors. They come in yellow, brown, and orange. So if we have 15 yellow candies out of a total of 60, and we were trying to find out if we had 100 pieces of candy in a jumbo-sized bag, how many would be orange or brown? So orange and brown would be the remainder of the candies. In order to solve for orange or brown, we'll need to set up our ratios with orange or brown over total candies. How many will be orange or brown out of 100 pieces of candy? Well, that will depend on how many were orange or brown out of 60 total pieces of candy. We're told how many were yellow. So if 15 were yellow out of 60, how many of them would have been orange or brown? We'll need to subtract. 60 minus 15 would give us 45. So 45 candies out of the 60 were orange or brown. So how many out of the 100 will be orange or brown? As you can see, we can simplify 45 over 60. But I'd like to tell you another way you could simplify this. You can simplify any direction that you're not multiplying. So here we'll be multiplying 60 times x and 45 times 100. We can simplify in any direction that we are not multiplying. So we could simplify 45 and 60, or we could simplify 60 and 100 because those numbers will not be multiplied by one another. You may find it easier to mentally simplify 60 and 100 by 10. If we did that, we would have just 6 and 10 if we divided each of them by 10. So we've simplified 60 and 100 to 6 and 10. And now we can proceed. So we have 6 times x equals 45 times 10, which will give us 6x equals 450. So we'll divide here by 6. 450 divided by 6. 6 will go into 45 7 times, which is 42. 6 will go into 30 5 times, with no remainder. So x is equal to 75. What does x represent? X represents orange or brown candies. There will be 75 orange or brown candies in a bag of 100 Reese's Pieces candies. That is what we can expect. On a test, if you get 8 out of 12 questions correct, how many questions could you expect to get incorrect on a similar test with 60 questions? See if you can set this one up and solve for the right answer. Pause the video and then see how you did. Okay, you're trying to find out how many you could expect to get incorrect on a test that has 60 questions. If it is similar to a test that you got 8 out of 12 questions correct. So our categories here do not match. We're trying to solve for incorrect. So x will represent the number of incorrect if we set up the first ratio with incorrect also. So to get the number incorrect, we have to take the number of questions and subtract how many were correct in order to get the number incorrect. So once you have that set up properly, then you are able to go ahead and solve. Now before you solve, you'll want to simplify both 4 and 12 by 4, which would have given you 1 over 12 equals x over 60. So I know I'll have 12x equals 60 times 1, which would just be 60. And divide both of those by 12, and we get x is equal to 5. So how many would you expect to get incorrect? 5 incorrect on a test that had 60 questions. Now let's have a look at solving percent proportions. Percent means per 100. If you think about the word cent, if you have 100 cents, you have a full dollar. If you have a century, you have 100 years. If you have a centipede, centipede has 100 legs, and a centimeter, 100 centimeters make up 1 meter. So the word cent means 100. So whenever you're talking about percent, you're talking about out of 100. That will be important to keep in mind as we look at percent proportions. Here's our first example. Jorley took a math test last Friday. Out of the 20 questions on the test, he answered 5 questions incorrectly. What grade did Jorley make on his test? A grade is a percent out of 100. And that percent out of 100 is based on how many you get right. So how many you get right out of the total is how you get your grade. Graded based on the percent of accuracy. So if you took a test with 20 questions total, and got how many right? It doesn't tell us. It tells us that he answered 5 questions incorrectly. So if 5 were incorrect, how many of them were actually right? We'll take 20 minus 5. And 20 minus the 5 that were incorrect would give us the number that were correct. So that would be 15. And this, of course, can be simplified. I'll go ahead and simplify 20 and 100 by 20. So that would be divided by 20 would be 1. Divided by 20 would be 5. So I'll have 1 times x, which would just be x, equals 5 times 15. And 15 times 5 will give me 75. So what grade did Jorley make on his test? He made a 75, because he got 75% of the questions correct. Anita received an 80 on her history test last Tuesday. If the test had 25 questions, how many questions did she get right? Set this one up on your own. Pause the video and then check and see if you did it correctly. Okay, you should have right over total. 80% is the percent that she got right out of a total of 100%. And she got 25 total questions, which would go on the bottom with total. So how many would she have gotten right? You'll put an X on top to find out. And then you can go ahead and simplify. So you might choose to simplify this by 10. So you would have 8 over 10. And then you could solve. 10 times x would equal 8 times 25. $25 times 8 would give you 200. And if you divided both sides by 10, you would get x is equal to 20. So she would have gotten 20 questions right. So how many would she get wrong? If the test had 25 questions and she got 20 right, that would leave her with 5 wrong. This one is a little different. Dean got a 90 on his homework assignment. So we know he got 90% correct, which would be 90 out of 100. If Dean answered 15 questions on the assignment correctly, so remember, 90% is how many are right out of a total of 100%. So if Dean answered 15 questions on the assignment correctly, how many questions were on the assignment? So this one is flipped. We're trying to find out how many total questions there were, and we know that there were 15 that were answered right. For this one, we'll just look at this setup and we'll move on to solve another proportion. Let's move on now to another example. Kenesha received a package of ornaments. Of the ornaments, 12% of them were broken. If the package contained 50 ornaments, then how many were not broken? Set up the proportion and then check and see if you've set it up correctly, and we'll solve it together. Okay, you should have not broken ornaments over total ornaments. What percentage of the ornaments were not broken? We know that 12% of them were broken. So to find what the percentage were not broken, we'll subtract the 12% we know were broken from the total 100% and get 88%. So 88 out of 100 would not be broken because 88% means 88 out of 100. So how many out of 50 would not be broken? This is a good time to look at how you can solve proportions without cross multiplying. We know that 50 times 2 gives us 100. What times 2 would give us 88? 44 times 2 would give us 88. So we know that x is equal to 44. Now for one final example. In 2003, 14% of the 50 largest cities in the U.S. were located in Texas. How many of the 50 largest cities were located in Texas in 2003? I want to make sure that you can do this on your own, so go ahead and pause the video and then check your solution. Okay, this one was pretty simple. You have 14% of the 50 largest cities in the U.S. So out of the total largest cities, 14% were in Texas. So that's 14% for Texas and 100% total. So you should end up with 7 of the largest cities in Texas.